You're listening to We Deepen Media.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Deepen with Christina. I'm your host, Christina Weber, founder and CEO of We Deepen, Feminine Weapon, and also a certified professional coach. If you haven't lately, go to wedeepen.com. Check out all the upcoming social and transformational experiences that we've curated for you to support you in having an epic love life. And what I'm most excited right now about is the Love Club. The Love Club is currently, we started as a group of 21 people in December of 2023. So this group has been together for about 5 months, and we all came together initially. Well, I was in a relationship, but everybody else was currently single. And we came together to study love, to support each other in expanding our networks for the purpose of peer-to-peer matchmaking, as well as holding each other accountable to our love goals. And the Love Club is getting ready to bring more members in. The current members are staying on board, and we're going to have 3 Love Club retreats a year. It's all getting put together in the moment. And what I realized is, in my personal relationship, I want to be surrounded by others who are practicing healthy relational dynamics, deepening, having the conversations that maybe might be challenging, hard to have. Also, I love exploring the erotic realm. One of the reasons that I was really personally excited to enter intimate partnership was because as a single woman, I was reluctant to explore sexuality, my own sexuality. I could explore my own sexuality. Don't get me wrong. Yes, I love a lot of pleasure, but to go to the places and really deeply study, I really wanted a partner. And so the Love Club is expanding to include couples and singles. If you're interested in joining us, check out wedeepen.com, hit the Love Club link. We are preparing to go to the biohacking conference. If you're listening to this before May, the end of May, early June of 2024, we're going to be in Dallas, Texas for the 10th annual biohacking conference on May 29th through June 1st. I'll be there facilitating the Connect and Conquer community-led experience with Sean Derrick, who was my initial co-founder in Underground Unattached, which is a decade ago of how my work began in the dating space. We were hosting this underground dating event in New York City. It was 20 men, 20 women, 3 hours. It was a curated group. Everybody would fill out a survey, a questionnaire. I would read all the responses. I'd have one-on-one phone conversations. And if it seems like a fit, they would get a password to enter the space. And so Sean and I are coming back together. We'll be at the biohacking conference, and the Love Club, We Deepen's Love Club, will have its own exhibiting table there, our hangout spot. So if you're at the conference, definitely make sure to come check it out. And also you can see the biohacking conference is listed at wedeepen.com. If you do enjoy this podcast, please do like, subscribe, rate, give it 5 stars. It helps more people find it, helps me continue to host it, and helps bring more people into this ecosystem of people who want healthy, epic relationships. So come and join us. Check it out. Today, I'm here in my home in Austin, Texas, and I am having a conversation with Rina Trevi. And Rina and I initially met. I've had Kimmy Inch on this podcast a couple of times. The last episode, Kimmy and I spoke about her 3-day immersion called Something More. Kimmy is a kink educator, a pro dominatrix, and she so sweetly curates this experience to activate the erotic inside of you, to explore kink on a deeper level. And at this 3-day immersion, Kimmy brings together some of the greatest educators of healthy relationships and also have experience in the erotic. And that's where I met Rina. She facilitated, which was, I think, the first time I ever did anything Shibari oriented. I'd hosted a play party once, Boundless, where we had a Shibari sound healing experience, but that was I watched the Shibari. There's a trend happening if you live in Austin or Miami or Los Angeles in the big cities. You go to these parties and there's a Shibari exhibit. You know, a lot of parties are having these Shibari exhibits, but here at this 3-day immersion, Rina taught us how to tie up and what it feels like to be the one tied up. And I remember the surrender that my body felt in that experience. You, for a group dynamic, you so sweetly guided the group to feel safe, as well as a new level of aliveness inside of my body and even a calmness of my mind. So we paired up and partnered in that. And that was the first time I got to experience Rina's magic. And then just last week, I'm at a festival and somebody's like, you have to meet Rina in Austin. She's one of the leaders in awakening people up into this erotic realm. So I'm excited to be having this conversation with you. Welcome to Deepen with Christina.
Wow, thank you for such a juicy introduction. And my style of Shibari has something to do more with how it feels rather than how it looks. And I really appreciate you noticing this.
So let's start with first, how did you become a teacher of Shibari?
It was a journey through BDSM and power exchange. I started as a professional dominatrix back in New York City. I was in my early 20s when I became a dom, which is a whole another story. How I got there, I was basically disillusioned with American dream lifestyle, and I wanted to have a change. I wanted to move into a whole another realm where people are more raw and real and true in themselves. And this is what really inspired me about dom work, because I would have my clients telling me something so deep and vulnerable, that something they would never share with their partner, with their friends, even with their therapists. And this is what excited me, that wow, I get to see those secrets and I get to participate in them, and then I get to discover my own magic, my own style, my own fantasies, desires. And there are no forbidden places. Obviously we have some personal boundaries, but as far as morals, ethics, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, it's no longer present when you're a dominatrix. It's all about trusting your subconscious, your desires, your fantasies, and just playing them.
How did you come to, it's interesting. You moved from Russia into America. We found out that you moved to Maryland. At first, I grew up in Maryland. Rina moved to Maryland. And is Russia deeper? Did you feel more of coming into the United States and then coming into feeling safe? There's something inside of you that must experience a sense of aliveness through hormonal releases that happens through, I guess, testing your limits. I think of somebody who goes and takes a wingsuit and they jump off a building, and it's like, wow, how could they do that? That's scary as fuck. I imagine, when it goes into, I mentioned as we open this podcast, I was looking for a partner to go and explore kink and the erotic together, but you were able to find the guts to go and do that on your own. What was that experience like for you? How did you find safety in that?
Well, growing up in Russia was not a safe place on so many levels, emotionally, physically, financially, like everything was unsafe where I was growing up. So there was definitely all this insecurities, scarcity, but also like thinking what's the whole point of this life in general, because nothing seemed to be making any meaning at all. And I was quite dissatisfied with where I grew up and how I was supposed to be, like how, women are supposed to get married early and be good housewives, like all this old-fashioned narratives. I was just so done with them by the time I came to America. I came for freedom, and that was portrayed as a country of freedom. Like in America, you can do a lot more. We watched Sex and the City, as teenagers in Russia, and that Sex and the City was just an idea, like, wow, women in their 30s, 40s, they can have so much fun. They're so free. They can choose whether they want to be in a relationship, whether they want to have sex all the time or get married or have children. Like, you get a choice. So that already invited me to come to America in search of freedom. But instead of getting right into freedom right away, it was another matrix, because first I was pursuing American dream in Maryland, where I was in the office cubicle. I got my master's degree really early. I was quite an overachiever. Like, I was really going for it. So when my family sent me on a mission to become successful, like, we're getting you a ticket to America so you can really become successful person in our family. Like, I got my degree, I got my career in finance in office cubicle. I was driving my car in a rush hour, like had a place to live. Like, that was considered a successful story. But again, it felt like I'm trapped. It's not where I want to be. When I go to office, people are speaking what they're supposed to speak, like all the small talk, all the formalities. But I had this drive within myself to find something more true and authentic than that. It was something I always had in me. I was always curious about why, what's the point, what's real, what's true, what's authentic, or where are we playing, like what do you really want. And in the office environment in Washington, D.C. area, I could not explore that. It felt very artificial, not in the same way as in Russia, but an artificial in a more safe way, because you're kind of protected by the golden cage, but you're still in the cage. And I had, my body was resisting. I feel like the breaking point was my body, and my body started to fall apart. I started to fall asleep in my office just out of the day, like just nothing happens. I slept well at night, but I'm crashing, I'm falling asleep, and I'm just so unhappy to be there. Like, nothing makes sense, kind of coming to that place again, that I'm not feeling well, I'm sleepy, I'm fatigued, I am not well, and I just want to escape somewhere. And I started to look for a way out.
So you start to look for a way out. How do you find the gateway into coming alive in your sexuality?
So it started from, looking for a gateway. It was more of an intention, like, I'm done with this, I want to do something different. And then there was a guy that I started to see who was in extreme sports. Since you mentioned wingsuit flies, that has been something I've been following for a while. It was one of my gateways into aliveness in general, where I feel like life is meaningless and nothing makes sense. I would go skydive off an airplane, which soon turned into base jumping. Base jumping is when you jump off objects, right? When you are jumping off buildings, swimsuits, like you mentioned. So that was one of my gateways. Extreme sports, like risking life for some like glorious moment of, wow, I'm like superhero, I'm on top of the world kind of moments, where you kind of escape the matrix of like societal shoots and what's wrong with life and money and boyfriends, kind of escaping all the troubles and being in that like place that is another planet. But the gateway into sexuality started from actually exploring with a guy who was into extreme sports. And he was a very alpha guy in the extreme sport community. He was a motocrosser, like really tough and muscles and all of that, like typical macho, like alpha male. And as I got to know him, we did some psychedelics together. And he said, let's do something different. And we went to dance first, and then he said, I see you dancing with a whip. grab that whip and dance it. And I was not understanding this right away. Like, what is he talking about? I'm a good girl. I'm not like this at all. It's his trip. It has nothing to do with me, but it kind of stayed with me. And then I came back and asked him more questions, like, what did you mean when you said dancing with a whip? And then he shared like, my wife is actually a dominatrix. And she is dominant at our home, like where we are, where we live. She's the dominant one. And I am the submissive. I wear stockings at home and I cook for us. And then she like does all kinds of like dominating things on me. And I was shocked. I had no idea. And then he's like, well, how about I introduce you to this? And then I learned that it's a whole profession. She's a professional dominatrix, not only at home, but she does it for work. And I was already looking to escape my office routine. And as I was looking to escape, I met his wife and I asked, like, is this something sustainable? You can do it for work, really? And she's like, yeah, it's so much fun. It's really exhilarating. You get to feel so empowered dominating this man. You get to be so creative in the ways that you can dominate them, what you tell them what to do. And I felt like it's an opposite of my Russian upbringing, where women are soft and compliant and obedient, have to listen to what man says. So it became intriguing. And eventually, as I couldn't be in my office anymore, I started to say, okay, what's my alternative if I cannot keep my office job? And I went to practice with this guy. He introduced me to different things that I can do to dominate him. And he dressed me up as a dominatrix, and I started to discover a whole alter ego, a whole different persona of me. And my sexual exploration started with more exploring it for others. As I went to a dungeon and men came to me with their sexual fantasies and desires, like, I want to explore this fetish, I want to explore this role play, I want to explore this kink, I want to go into pain. So I started to explore their sexual desires before I started to question my own, actually.
What are 3 things, if you could think of 3 things that you've learned about what people desire on a deep level in intimate connection that you weren't aware before you started doing this work to now that you've learned and you've opened up to see?
What are the 3 things that people desire in the intimate connection? Well, that's safety, to be free, to be themselves 100%, free from social norms, how men's supposed to be, how women's supposed to be. That's really huge, to have that safe zone, first of all, within yourself, like to begin with, and then, of course, attracting partners, community, where you can be 100% yourself. And the second thing is to get out of your mind, like to not, well, which is kind of synonymous to the first one, but it clicks in a bit differently if you really look at that. It's like, I want to get out of my mind and really feel things. I want to be in my body. I want to experience aliveness in my body. I want to feel like how, like, different, like, I don't know, sensations, like goosebumps. I want to feel how I'm blushing. I want to feel how my body, like, becomes like electricity is running through my skin. I want to feel like all sorts of sensations, like, that are not even labeled as good and bad. I just want to feel aliveness in me. So, like, getting out of your mind, getting into your body. Second, having that safety too from all the norms, like I can be anything I want to be. And the third, I feel like it can be described as attunement, having a partner who feels you, who sees you, who loves you anyway, whatever you are. Like that feeling of being seen, being understood, like that deep attunement where you don't have to say, they just feel you. Like that's a strong desire I feel like for everyone. If I can generalize it that much, it's for everyone.
All those, yes. That second one, I'd love to go into a little bit more the getting out of your head aspect of, we hear that a lot of, it's like when someone's like, get out of your head, or I'm in my head. It's like, well, there's some really good information in my head. Like my head needs to come too, like has to be a part of this experience as well. And I know that psychedelics and plant medicines can be supportive of helping somebody get out of their head. What in the BDSM kink practice, what is supportive of somebody doing that? And also I wonder if you dom sub, if we talk about power dynamics, you said, this man was a sub and his wife was a dom. Do you find that the dom is more in a heady role than the sub is able to release and let go?
That's a good question. I see that Dom has a certain more level of awareness because there is a sense of like, okay, there is a time, there is space, there is certain safety elements. So head, as you just said, like does play a certain role, but it can be more of like partial experience, not a full experience. So being like fully in your head is like being constantly in this cerebral zone where you kind of have to cognize things all the time, analyze things all the time. And if it takes too much space, it's not fun for either Dom or sub, right? But Dom has a certain responsibility for certain safety elements like navigating through time and space and logistics and tools. So maybe Dom has a little more certain sense of control, but still Dom get their own high of getting out of their mind through a top space, so-called top space. While for sub, of course, there is also a certain level of being in the head, like such as like, well, there are some boundaries and limits. Like I don't want to receive certain kind of marks, like for example. So of course, if something goes in a direction where they don't want to go, their head is there to protect them and support them so they can speak up like, I don't think I want to go in that direction. So of course, a certain level of awareness and certain head space, like certain level of mental space is still welcome in the scene. And yet just to have a bigger expansion into some subtle realms, like in psychedelic experience. So like I can give analogy, like if you are having LSD trip, you want to stay sober enough so you can go pee, for example, when you need to, because if you take too much and you're so out of your mind that you might forget what it's like to actually take care of yourself in such simple ways. So similarly in BDSM, there is of course certain level of awareness of in space and time and safety and all of that goes for both. But the ideal result is going in that state of flow of a dance of top space and subspace. When one person occupies that place of power, like, I have so much power, I'll do anything to this person. And they will take it with pleasure. While the other one is like, I am so powerless, they can just do anything to me. And I'm ready. I'm going to take all of that, no matter what they tell me, how they do it to me. Let them kill me, let them destroy me, let them punish me, let them humiliate me. I'm ready for anything. And that just gives this kind of state of high of this dance together. I can do it all and I'm ready to receive it all. And I find it really intoxicated. What is your experience, by the way, with that getting out of your mind in top space and subspace?
Well, I brought it up because I felt like all day yesterday for me, I was very heady. It's Sunday today. Yesterday was Saturday. And this podcast does, follow my journey of developing my career in the world of love and relationships and, the entrepreneur journey that I've been on. And there's a lot of business decisions that I'm making right now. And sometimes, when you have to make a lot of business decisions, and if you're a solo founder, it can feel like isolating and a bit lonely in your head. And then I went to a party last night and I could just sense myself while I was really enjoying everybody around me. I felt that I was also like, my brain was like assessing, team, the offering, are the current members happy, or is everyone getting what they want? So I was very much in my own like solving. I need to solve this. And then I'm also there with my partner. And we're in our relational dynamics, and I could feel like I'm not fully present today. And I think in the noticing of it, there's not wanting to shame myself for that experience, but it's like, I'm definitely in this, I can feel the weight of like, even the other, like 2 nights ago, as we go through these aiming to solve, I love when I feel the difference when I'm in that state of flow. You're just like, I'm flowing through my work, I'm flowing through my life, but some moments of like constriction of like, is this right? So it's very heady. And as you were speaking about that second round of getting out of your head and how that moment happens, I was like, because in my personal relationship, I play more of the dom role and he plays more of the sub role. So my question even was coming out, I was thinking from a personal standpoint, maybe would having a experience with the dom for me personally, like one-on-one separately, because he's not my dom, having an experience with that help those moments when I am releasing out of that heady space. And especially too, if you know the things, because I think some of the things that keeps us in a heady space is that you know what in your life needs to change, but the actual act of doing it. So when someone comes and doms you to do it, it's like you're held accountable for moving the energy from your head back into the body, because there's a release of like, this problem has been released. You've went and solved it. You took care of it, instead of like, you can even think of somebody in a relationship. Should I stay or should I go in this relationship? And that can be a heady experience because you're constantly thinking like, should I stay in this relationship? Should I not? Whether it's even a work relationship or a love relationship, whatever type of relationship. So for me, I'm curious around, like, I think that there's a lot in the inviting more pleasure, we talk about sex magic, and through connection. Like I notice also when I'm very present with the person that I'm with, it's like all my problems disappear. And it's like, I'm so right there, and things are working out on another level, because it's a lot of things are even moving outside of our mind that we can't, it's like you can sit and ponder, like, how am I going to do? And how am I going to solve this situation? But also God or the universe or the other people involved are moving energy constantly. So it's not even our whole entire responsibility. So these therapeutic practices of, say, BDSM or being in the erotic space, I'm just pondering of how, when I personally get in my heady moments, of how I more move quickly out of them.
Yeah, the importance of being able to get out of being too heady, kind of noticing, okay, head is like 100%. And I want head to still exist, but maybe 10%. And then 90%, what else is out there? And then realizing that, wow, there are more levels of this existence, right? There is the intuition, there is an instinct in us, there are emotions in us. And then, as you said, like the source, the God consciousness, that really ultimately drives everything, which is really amazing to start realizing that and finding different possibilities, not to let our cerebral mind drive the whole show. And BDSM experiences are definitely helpful, and in both dom and sub role, because in the dom role there is that place of power. For me, it definitely was helpful because I was very insecure before. I was conditioned to be too self-conscious, very insecure, like Russian girl who needs to try to fit in, try to be nice to everyone. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, wow, I have this whole another persona in me where I can be nasty. I can tell people what to do. I can do anything I want and they will take it. And that was like giving me that boost of confidence. And I would get out of the scene feeling so high on that sense of power. And not only just power, but also connection, because within that power being loved, within that power being worshipped, and within that power having that moments of connection that is really intimate and precious, that kind of connection that is outside of like norms of how connection of between men and women is supposed to be, but more like real, more raw, more true. Of course, like sexual desire is involved, but it seems like sexual desire is a certain God's given energy that helps us to get out from our minds, of our preconceived notions of who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to act, what we're supposed to say. That sexual urge can put us in a place where we can erotically humiliate each other, right? Or tie each other up and make someone feel completely vulnerable and helpless. And that can become exciting. It can turn us on. And it's like you can experience that on both ends of the spectrum, on being on the receiving side and on the giving side. And what I found that works for me is actually to balance two sides, to have moments where I'm the dom, I'm the one writing the show, designing the scene, I'm the one telling what to do. And then there are other times where I would like to submit and see what it feels like when I let someone else make decisions for me, when I let someone else tell me what to do, when they can give certain surprising input on my body, like different sensations of pleasure and pain. They get to decide whether I get to be tortured or whether I receive an orgasm, or craft a completely outwardly scene which doesn't even happen in this real world, like something I never get to experience otherwise. And I find both sides to be really exhilarating and great opportunities to get out of your mind and connect to something deeper, your body, your intuition, your instincts, and different levels of consciousness.
So you just brought that word torture into the conversation, which I think some people, listening to this might be like, whoa, where did we just go with the word torture? And then, individually, when we're in those heady experiences, sometimes it does feel like we're torturing ourselves in those moments. So if you're bringing the word torture and somebody's, whether they're torturing me or pleasuring me and I don't get to decide, what is that? What do you mean by that?
Different sensations. So it's about experience fullness of sensations. So similarly in emotional level, for example, in our society, we usually welcome joy, gratitude, sweet emotions, right? But then we don't want to experience anger and sadness and grief. We want to go through it fast. We want to have a pill that just resolves all of it. And we're done with this because we don't like how it feels. So similarly with physical sensations, we want to feel good sensations like pleasure, orgasms, and we want to run away from pain. But the idea is that we can experience the totality of it. The philosophy that I resonate with is this non-dual teachings, non-dual spiritual teachings where we're all of it. We can experience all the sensations. And in fact, joy is not as deep as when we really experience sorrow. When we really go through grief and sorrow and anger and all these vulnerable feelings, then the joy on the other side gets to be so much brighter, so much lighter, so much more rich and juicy. So similarly with physical sensations, we want to experience good ones, but actually good ones become sweeter when we experience something like that is challenging. So it can be like being scratched, like as simple as that. I'm not even talking about some serious medieval torture. Of course, someone can take it really far and go into this archetypal play of like really experience some heavy duty torture. I find there is a lot of beauty in finding the small gestures of torture, just scratching someone or biting someone, right? Or pulling their hair. And that can be quite torture and being even tickled, so it can be quite a torturous experience. And yet, after that torture, something pleasurable feels way sweeter because we get to experience fullness of being human. So ultimately, the pleasure is derived not from escaping pain and reaching pleasure, but instead actually integrating all of it together. Being able to experience everything with like total fuck yes, total gratitude, total embrace, like it hurts now, but I'm here for it. I love it, it's pleasure, and I'm here for it. And there is a point in BDSM experience that your mind stops even evaluating whether it's pleasure or pain. It just interprets everything as a beautiful experience of being alive. And I feel like this is where spirituality meets BDSM, because ultimately, if we can experience life with so much gratitude for everything, whether it's tears or joy, pleasure or pain, and we just say yes to everything and just roll with this, ride the waves of pain and pleasure with gratitude, creativity, and being just in awe of this, like being appreciative of like almighty, the glory of life, like how precious life is when we can experience full colors of it, not just resent certain colors and welcome others.
I love how deep your professional experiences and understanding of the erotic. I'm curious to, now go deeper into like Christina and Rina, us, two women here in Austin having, Austin is quite a kinky city. New York City has opened up. I was sharing about Kinky Rabbit Club, and which is a play party that is very popular. It's very upscale in Los Angeles, and I hosted. There's a Kinky Rabbit episode with the two founders on Deepen with Christina. I think it's maybe around like episode 80-ish something, and Mystery Temple Yosef Sagi is hosting that one in Los Angeles. So Los Angeles has a lot happening. Kinky Austin, Miami too, is waking up a lot of play parties happening there. But you've sort of retired from being a professional dominatrix. You're teaching rope and Shibari. I know that you and I at one point even connected over the work you're doing with women. Are you training women to? You're doing these women circles. If I remember, you're also training women to support other women in opening up sexually in that private space. Is that correct? Which I definitely want to go in and talk about that. But where are you at in your own personal love and intimacy journey right now in this moment? Like, what are you still craving to experience? And also, I believe you're currently single and dating too. So what's it like to date? I'm packing a bunch of questions onto you, but these are all the things that are running through.
Oh my God, where to begin? Where am I right now? So doming, kind of been outgrown. I felt at some point tired of BDSM scene in New York, Manhattan, like all the Wall Street guys of power and me with like all the whips and chains and dungeons. So there was a point that I wanted to transition. And at the same time, I was exploring Tantra in Thailand. That work of being a dom allowed me to travel there. And this was where my explorations have started, actually, because I was really lucky to be introduced to this spiritual path of Tantra, where the first opening lecture is that women have so many orgasms. Like, wow, I never had them before. And it's like men can have like multiple orgasms. Ejaculation is not the goal. You can have higher states, higher orgasm, more pleasure. Like, wow. So that was my moment where my explorations begin really on my own skin. Before it was me exploring on clients and having more of like regular vanilla sex in my life, which like for the lack of education was just, stimulating each other's genitals kind of until we get somewhere. It wasn't really going anywhere blissful and deep. It was all right. It wasn't so bad. But once I discovered tantric school, we started to go into tantric massages. And this is when I started to feel so much more. My body has so much more than I ever realized is possible. And it wasn't right away all pleasure. Initially, it was numbness, pain, shame, like mixture of emotions and feelings. So this is also what I learned about polyamory. Because in a tantric spiritual community, we wanted to explore things like, wow, all of this is possible. So how do I get there? Well, this partner is possibly the one who can get you to this place. And with this partner, you can explore this side of spirituality. And this partner is more kinky. And I started to explore with different men at that time and started to generally liberate my mind from being ashamed of being slutty and all those preconceived notions about women that I was raised with. So that was part of the journey to explore my own orgasmic potential through yoni massages. As I was receiving yoni massages, I was able to experience the fullness of orgasmic potential. And then from there, integrating kink and tantra, like understanding why people want to experience certain sensations, what's the psychology behind it, what do we want, and finally coming to my own fantasies and realizing, wait a minute, I also have some fantasies that I haven't explored, and I start to get really picky about how I explore them. So for example, like being tied up, like at some point I realized I want to get tied up, and nobody does it for me. I ask my boyfriend and he just doesn't get it. He's like, you're not running anywhere. Why would I tie you? Like completely ignorant around this whole dynamic. And then that was the first time I actually hired a professional to explore rope with. So that professional was also in the same island in Thailand, in Koh Phangan. And he was a professional rope master. And I signed up for a 5-hour session of being tied up by him to experience like a fullness of rope journey. And he took me on the moon and back. It was everything. It was torture, quite literally. And that torture brought me to a place of my biggest fears. The torture was through suspension, through rope suspension. He put me in some really uncomfortable position, and then he suspended me upside down in all these really like torturous ways that would squeeze the life out of my body. It was really tough. And through screaming, through feeling all this pain, I was able to meet some of my deepest like pains and fears and process them. But then on the other side, we went into pleasure, and we had like all kinds of sexual experiences in that rope scene. And that was like way juicier, way wilder than I ever experienced, like being tied up and being stimulated at the same time, receiving these pleasurable toys and tools, trying this, trying that. So that opened up all my horizons to rope journeys. Like, wow, with ropes, you can take people that far into so many different directions. So he became one of my first mentors in the world of Shibari. But coming back to your question around where am I in my life right now? Yeah, I'm single, I'm dating. My dating life is really bright right now. I'm seeing different men, and they all have something unique to offer. And I meet really amazing, beautiful men. And I go for men who have certain authenticity, creativity, uniqueness about them, so they can take me to some places where I haven't been. I really love that. I really love when someone can share something with me I've never been exposed before. I love exploring Tantra and BDSM, sometimes separately, sometimes together. I have an amazing lover in Thailand with whom we've been practicing Tantric sex for a decade. We've been there for a while. We don't see each other often. We see each other once in a blue moon when I'm there in Thailand. He doesn't travel much. He stays there, and I come to Thailand once or twice a year, and we make love maybe like 2 or 3 times per visit, but it's like an ayahuasca experience with him. We do it for hours and hours and hours, and he really knows how to take me really deep in like very ecstatic states of consciousness. And there I have other partners in different places with whom I love to explore something that I cannot explore otherwise. So it's really multidimensional, multifaceted, and I also like to share my fantasies that I haven't explored in the realm of kink. So, for example, these days there is a certain fantasy that's been popping up a lot for me, and the fantasy is somehow related to class play, I guess I can describe it. So I can give an example. Like, I have 2 fantasies. They're about the same, but opposite. So the first one is actually where I am a classy woman in a villa wearing like high-end lingerie, and I'm just this kind of rich, glamorous girl. And then I hired a plumber, and the plumber comes in, and he's this kind of low-class, very simple guy who is like dirty jeans, dirty toolbox, and kind of wearing a cap, and is just like bad manner kind of guy. And then he seduces me right there in the kitchen counter, in the just most like simple way, just grabs my ass, grabs my hair, bends me over like, and just does his things. And somehow it's something I never experienced in my life, because my life is different. But I wouldn't want that reality to happen. But with a friend, I would love to play out this fantasy, and I already found someone with whom I'm going to play it with. We just haven't scheduled it. We just have to plan it. I don't want to do it at my home. It has to be as real as it can get. It has to be the villa. It has to be a fancy spot and I have to be the fanciest woman I can be. And then we have to really prepare for it. And the other side of the same fantasy I have, where it's the opposite. It's actually Pretty Woman movie, Julia Roberts, Richard Gere kind of scene, where I'm like the low-class prostitute and I'm dressed up and he's supposed to, like, and there is a guy passing on a fancy car and I just give him some outrageous price and then he says, oh sure, let's do it. And then he takes me to some fancy kind of hotel and I'm this woman that he just purchased and he can do anything he wants with me. So it's kind of like something I never get to experience in my life. Well, for example, I never had sex for money. I never get paid to have sex. I was always against that. I have that still Russian girl mentality that this is the lowest low you can go if you ever have sex for money. But that fantasy feels very edgy, very taboo for me. But it's also this kind of class and role reversal where this time I am this kind of like ignorant, low class prostitute and he is like sophisticated, very rich, intelligent, high class kind of gentleman, and then we get to explore the dynamic between us. So yeah, there's a couple of fantasies I haven't explored yet, and I really want to play them. So there is one of them that is about to happen when we schedule it. The second one, I haven't actually had a chance to actualize it, but I really want to make it happen in my personal life.
Well, I love listening to you share them. My imagination, I felt it inspiration from that of like, okay, I never thought about that. I want to play that out. Like, that's an interesting one to play out. So dating, like, are you like, when you think of dating, like, are you dating to fulfill fantasies? Like, what inspires you to date?
Well, I have different desires. I would love to meet a soulmate, someone with whom I can be a partner with. And that would be amazing if it happens. And that person has to be on the same spiritual path. It's my first priority, for example. And many other things that I'm looking for. But it's more like a partnership, kind of growing together, traveling together, shared career goals kind of would be amazing as well. And shared travel goals, shared adventures, like shared spiritual path, shared kink and sexuality, like sharing life basically with someone. So that would be amazing if I find this person, and I definitely want to be in an open relationship because I also have other things that I like to fulfill. So I realize that I'm not really, at this point of life, I'm not made for monogamy. I want to explore with different people. So this partner has to be open-minded so we can actually explore with other people. But then I have certain fantasies and desires. And I just love humans when they open up and then they're themselves and we can find a way to dance together. One of my favorite relationship types is friends with benefit kind of relationship, where we prioritize deep friendship, when I know that this person is really there for me as a friend, and our sexuality is not the priority of that relationship. So that means that if we stop doing sexual things, we will stay friends and our friendship will not suffer from it. And I have a few of those relationships going on in my life, and that's really amazing because that friendship is such a juicy thing, and I mean, such a deep, powerful thing that, and the lovemaking is a juicy part of the friendship. So we can go in the lovemaking experience and explore kinks and explore fantasies and just make love to each other, and it's beautiful, but friendship is more important. So I feel like I have so much openness these days for different types of relationships because I get to experience different side of me. I get to connect in a different way with different humans. And I think it's beautiful to be in this place. I don't think I've been there before. I think before my life was a bit more kind of narrow. I only need this. But now I feel like there is a lot of openness for and curiosity and trust in life in general. Like, I will meet this person. Who knows where life will take us from here? But I feel a pull. I feel a curiosity to go there. So why not go there? Let me just see what happens. And just planning kind of one step at a time feels really nice.
As we were setting up to have this conversation, we spoke about the audience, like who's listening to this podcast and where are they at in their journey. And, you know, some of the things that I'm gaining access to and beginning to experience in my own, you know, private life and new friendships here in Austin, there is this erotic energy coming to life. And, you know, I have friends who, if I shared some of the things I'm experiencing with, would be like, what? Like the dissonance between us feels broad and big. And so as we, you know, set this up, it's like, who are we talking to? And I invite it, like, let's just be yourself and let's just have this conversation. Whoever needs to hear what, it's good to hear the full spectrums. Do you feel like how, as you share in this way, do you feel as though you've cultivated your friendship circle that is in alliance? Like, are they doing the same things that you're doing? Are they interested in the same things? Or do you sometimes feel like an alien of, oh my God, I'm so far out there, and how can I relate to the rest of the world?
Especially here in Austin, I feel like I'm really in the right place. But I also trust that your vibe attracts your tribe. So I feel like I do attract people who are on similar frequencies. And in a way, universe listens to me when I make a certain request, when I speak up, like, I'm looking to attract this person in my life. And then, ta-da! Like it appears. Actually, recently, at the end of the year, I had made this intention that I want to be a bit more in my feminine role, making guys take over control, which is a trust issue for me, because as I grew up, it was more like, I need to take care of myself. I need to plan it. I need to control this experience. So there's like certain leadership role where I'm at, also in my work. But in my personal relationship, I made this intention that I want to attract more men who would be the ones to lead and guide me. And this is an edge for me because I'm so used to being a leader as a dominatrix, as a business owner. So there's a lot of leadership in my life for myself. So I made an intention to attract a man who would be somehow holding me, guiding me, leading me, planning things. And it can be little things such as planning a date. Like, I really love it when a man like say, you free that night? Good, I've planned it all for you. Like, surprise. Or like, okay, I'll meet you this time, wear your favorite dress. And that excites me. There is this little princess archetype that wakes up in me, which I haven't had access to. So that's just a little example, but also a bigger example as far as men being more evolved as far as psychological and spiritual maturity, and being able to see some of my blind spots and being able to kind of very gently guide me towards some places where I want to go towards, but just somehow unable. So having that kind of puts me in a more receptive and feminine zone. Or even men planning vacation for us, like that, something I experienced recently. I was on a vacation with someone, like a little mini vacation, but it was a friend who organized it for me. And before we were kind of even friends, but then I made this request of being in my feminine, and universe just provided. And then all of a sudden he says, hey, I want to invite you on this vacation when I want to completely take care of you, so you can really relax, let go, and no obligation, just do whatever feels good to you. And that felt really nice. So it did feel like when I made this request to the universe that, hey, I want to be more in my softness, in my tenderness, in my princess role, in my feminine role, like everything just started to happen, and I started to attract these people, and even existing people started to offer that type of energy exchange, which we didn't have before. So yeah, the short answer is like your vibe really attracts your tribe, and I feel that it does happen. Is where I'm at these days in myself, but also physically where I'm at in Austin, and all of this already starts to manifest certain scenarios and situations. Do you feel like it relates to you in some way?
Yeah. And two, actually, well, if I go into, the feminine aspect of feeling into my feminine or feeling in, that's one thing for me personally. I never feel like I leave my feminine. I always feel that even when I'm doing business, maybe that's where this name Feminine Weapon came from. A decade ago, one of my guy friends was like, Chris, I created this nickname for you. Don't let this go to your head, but you're such a feminine weapon. You're so business savvy, but you're such a girl. So I'm able to always be in this girly space. when you were speaking though, I was thinking about attachment and having a lot of like how do you feel attuned to your partners and also have these experiences and then let go of them. Like, it's like this vacation that you mentioned, like the vacation, and then, this one, and then separate from them and then go off to have this other experience and separate. It's almost like you're speaking a lot to this very deep practice of non-attachment, but that non-attachment is because you also mentioned about blockages of having partners help you to see your blockages. How do you have all these experiences without wanting to hold on to them and make them more?
I definitely want to hold on to them and make them more. But I feel like the first thing is that I try to attract people who will not be the kind of people who will just vanish, and just cut everything. And of course, that would be painful, having some deep experience with someone, intimacy, sexuality, and kink, and then this person just goes, and just, especially without notice, that would be painful. What I try to see is that we don't end relationship, we continue. It's just that it doesn't have to be something 24/7 ongoing. We don't need to see each other all the time, and just trusting the abundance of universe that even if somehow physically we are not together right now, we will meet each other again. And in the meantime, there are different things that I can connect with. There is always opportunity for intimacy and connection, even if it's just me and my toy. I play with my toy a lot. I have an octopus toy and I play with this, and I can take myself to beautiful states of consciousness, and I can connect with my girlfriend. So I kind of feel like just focusing on abundance of life and connection definitely helps me. And at the same time, if I'm a human, if someone goes deep with me and we spend enough time together, I do get attached. And what really helps, that even if it doesn't become the relationship and we are not living together or anything like that, I just know that this person is there, and I can call them, and I can share my feelings, and I can be vulnerable, and I can open up and say that I miss them, and something we experience is so precious, it makes me desire more, and them listening to me, and just, I'm here, I get it, I get it, I totally see what it feels like, and just being good listeners. So I try to pick people who are able to listen to my insecurities and be there for me, even if they are not there to me as my soulmate. They can still be there for me as friends. And I feel that's the beauty of having the collection of friends around the world, knowing that no matter where I go, I have beautiful people that are there for me. And that feels really, gives me a lot of fulfillment, knowing that I have my tribe. I go places and I can reconnect to some people with whom I had some precious experience in the past, like my lover in Thailand. I'm just so confident in him, as far as knowing that, and whenever I go back to Thailand, we will connect. And that just gives me a lot of sense of connection and security. And also knowing that I wish well for him. He can see other people in the meantime, and I'm seeing other people in the meantime. I feel like there is a lot of abundance in having this tribe and this circle of people who are on a similar path, who are, first of all, my friends. And I feel like this trust in this type of abundance makes me go through pain of separation much easier. But the pain is there sometimes, and it's part of the experience.
So you do work with women as well. Are you bisexual?
I would say more bi-curious than bisexual. Yeah, I don't have women ongoing lovers, but I do explore with women in tantric or play spaces.
And how about desire? Are you a mother? Have you ever had a desire to be a mother?
No, I don't feel like it's for me in this lifetime, but you never know. Maybe it will change, but it doesn't look like as of right now.
So the work, you have a women's retreat or program coming up in October of 2024. What is that experience? How are you supporting women in coming deeper into their pleasure and sexual freedom?
Yeah, one of the type of journeys that I offer is yoni massage, and I've been doing it for quite some time, and I recognize that it's incredible practice for women to help to connect to themselves and reach their full orgasmic potential and really being more embodied, connect to themselves, their body, their heart, their soul, and to be able to experience different types of orgasms. At some point, I started to have such a huge demand for women who want to experience this with me, and I realized that I don't want to do it all the time. It's a lot of energy for me to practice it all the time, so the demand is higher than what I can offer with my own hands. And then my mentor and I came together and we said, like, we need more massage practitioners, because first of all, it's hard for me to receive it from someone. Not many women know, or man, that doesn't even matter who gives it to me, man or a woman, but there are not many people in the world who can offer this type of body work and that level to that depth that I want to go to. So one of the inspirations we had is that we as practitioners, we don't have many other facilitators who can offer it to us, because sometimes I want to receive a yoni massage and I just want to be receptive and in my bliss and just lay down and let someone guide me through this body work. Like, would be amazing, but it's hard to find. So my mentor and I, we decided to start creating this community of women who are offering this tantric body work. And last year, actually, our first event, our first class was in 2023 in March. We had a first circle of graduates, women who flew to Austin to become tantric massage practitioners. And then they need to practice on volunteers for quite some time before we approve them to be practitioners in this modality. But once they're approved, that means we have a circle. We refer clients to each other, because often I get messages, I know someone in New York, do you know someone in LA? And unless I trust this person, I don't know. So I don't want to recommend someone I don't know. So this way we create a community of women who practice this modality. And this practice is really huge. Like, once the community knows that there is a practitioner of yoni massage there that is trusted, that is experienced with right intention, like, women want to do this. Women really need it. So many women live lives disembodied, not connected to their boundaries, desires, fantasies, and not being able to experience orgasm. So that's the biggest motivation, is that my hands cannot massage all the women in the world, but if we create this modality, this community, this network of practitioners, it means that more people all around the world can have access to this practice, and there will be different practitioners, different price ranges, different styles, because each one of us brings some element of who we are, our own superpowers, our own styles into this modality. And that creates a diversity of amazing practitioners. So that's one of the passions that I'm developing these days, is creating those certification trainings. And we just had one in Austin this year at the beginning of March, and the next one will be in October. And my co-founder, co-facilitator, Surya, she lives in Quebec City in Canada, so she's coming specifically for that. She has another 10 years of experience in this modality. She's very, very skillful. So the two of us, we guide women into giving yoni massages to one another. And as a result, they get to work on themselves, because they get to receive, and also they learn to give. So they understand what it feels like to be on the receiving side, like what an impact this practice gives, and then they are able to give afterwards. And we focus only on women for now, because we felt like it's safer to create sisterhood before we introduce men to this professional practice. Sometimes we educate men on the more personal level, like if a man wants to do it for his personal life, we can educate him. But otherwise, professionally, we just focus on women, the yoni holders, women who have yonis. They understand what it's like, and they can offer a great experience to other women.
You know, I'm interested. I know you told me about this beforehand in March, and that was a crazy month for me, but I would be curious, because I imagine that would get me better in tuned with my own pussy yoni. And also, I think the thing of like destigmatize, like that your pussy is only for this level of erotic pleasure, that there's so much more healing that can come from down there. I mean, there's, your intuition, your there's so much intelligence inside of it. Your body recognizing like what's good and bad. And I'm curious if you have any, know of any like personal story, not to reveal someone else's name, but how have you seen this practice wake somebody up or bring greater benefits into their life? How does it support somebody?
I can easily share mine because my yoni was not an easy case. When I first came to this practice, everything was numb inside. I was only getting like pleasure from external stimulation. And then as the practitioner started to massage me, I'm like, ouch, like it starts to hurt. So then numbness turned into pain, which is common because numbness is there to protect something. And then when you start holding space and touch that numbness reveals pain. So my G and A spot is actually those places from where we can experience female ejaculation or squirting were completely painful. And whenever my practitioner would touch me, it was pain. Like, no, just don't touch me there. And of course, in our normal sexuality, we don't want to go for places that hurt usually. It's kind of a bad pain. It's not the kinky kind of fun pain. No, it's like when it burns. It's not pleasant. Your yoni shrinks. Everything feels bad. So usually you would tell your lover, like, don't touch me there, or not with this angle. Let's penetrate in a different angle or something like that, different position. But in yoni massage, we are addressing those places that are painful. So speaking of pain and torture, kind of full circle coming to this topic, is that you don't want to avoid this place and you want to kind of explore what this pain is like. What does it feel like? How can we find a state of consciousness from where we can welcome this pain? And my practitioner helped me by asking me to make a long sound ah while I'm feeling this pain. So she would start touching it very gently, and I'm like ah, and then she increases. I'm like ah, and then it goes stronger, and the pain increases. But because I'm making that sound ah, and that's my primary focus, I'm able to kind of like really ride the wave of that pain while I'm screaming that out, kind of like knowing that I will scream all my lungs out, and once I cannot scream anymore, this is when I will tell her to stop. So I'm screaming that long ah, and she increases the touch, and there is a point of total surrender that happens in that moment, that I just give up. It hurts, but I relax, but I give up, and I'm just focusing on my ah sound. And as I'm screaming, on top of that scream, and there is a peak experience, that pain starts to have those little tones of pleasure in it. And squirting actually happened in that deep relaxation. I couldn't say that was like the most pleasurable, like deep orgasm. It was kind of a mixture of both pain and pleasure. But that was the first time I was able to experience something like this there. And then I started to have curiosity. Let me go there again. Let me touch myself in this G-spot area. Let me continue stimulating. So then this pain wasn't my enemy anymore. It was like a point of exploration, and didn't take long till that pain totally disappeared and totally turned into pleasure there. And by sharing this story, I can imagine that I can inspire someone to not be afraid of those painful places in your yoni, and instead of escaping them, trying to find a way to kind of befriend it, connect with this, play with it, find like a certain state of consciousness where you don't mind having a little bit of pain, maybe like cultivate arousals through clitoral stimulation, so you can actually welcome some challenging places in your yoni. So this gives us some creativity and some room to study our yoni and see what it can bring, and also see different facets of pleasure. That some pleasure is like purely physical, but some pleasure is more about relaxation. Some pleasure is more about inspiration. Some places are more like, some pleasure is more about feeling like oneness and unity with someone, or some is more like laughing, and some is more like crying and just feeling soft and tender. Like some is more about bringing up some confessions and deep longing. So you kind of like have this, like you described, that expansion when you are connected to your yoni. So the overall point here is not to be afraid of painful places and continue cultivating connection with your yoni, like slowly, gradually, mindfully, just exploring different parts and different places. And I don't believe there is a woman who is not able to be fully orgasmic. Like it's all given to us. Our bodies are designed for pleasure. we just might not know it. We just cover it up somehow. So this is one of the passions that I want to bring to the world and help other women experience that.
Wow. Wow. And too, yeah, I often hear women outside of kink circles share about how it's been years since they've felt a really sense of aliveness through orgasm, or even the feeling of, I got to please my partner, and, you know, not wanting to take too long to get to orgasm, or the impatience that goes around it. I used to have a little bit of, you know, triggering happen when men would be like, I want to see you come, or yeah, even saying that, I'd be like, whoa, just let me be. Like, don't give me pressure to get to an orgasm, to feel the orgasm. And yeah, I think having other women support each other instead of a man who doesn't have a pussy, and our educational curriculum, it's not like it taught him and taught them how to give pleasure. And God bless so many men who've went on their own journeys to learn and discover and ask lots of questions, and the women who give direction and support them in telling them what feels good, because even some of that is suppressed. I remember early on, I got pretty quickly that to tell men what feels good and not, and to see their I was always surprised over the decade after that I started to give them direction of how often they would tell me how rare it was for a woman to tell them what feels good. And the communication, you know, barriers that are happening between man and woman, of that's even just such a great place to start if you want to dive in. Another thing too that I love about kink, by the way, is that when you invite kink into a relationship early on, it kind of takes away the, you know, the like farting in front of each other, or, you know, peeing in front of each other, or having, you know, the hard conversations sort of get eliminated because you've been practicing and having these more of erotic conversations. But to see women coming together and supporting each other in a really sweet way, there's a beautiful sisterhood that's developed from that. And I'm grateful for the work that you're doing. And I personally have never had a yoni massage from another woman. And my partner, he gives phenomenal. I'm very well taken care of. And there is a curiosity of what it would be like to bond more intimately in that way of, yeah, I've never considered myself like bisexual either, but the playing in the erotic with other women and having and being bi-curious is definitely resonate with the Skirt Society. Have you heard of the Skirt Society? Yeah, she does. Genevieve does great work in that. Rina, thank you so much for this conversation. Before we wrap, and in the show notes, we will share about your Instagram. Is so I love scrolling through and seeing your Instagram and the content you share there and the stories. It's so well curated, well put together, so much thought, so much love. We didn't really hit on the topic of love, but I mean, this whole thing was on the topic of love. But I can see even your messaging definitely comes across in this, like there's something deeper, there's something more to be discovered, and the willingness to go there and to show us things. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery to do so. But before we do wrap up, is there anything that possibly could come through once I push stop on this recording that you're like, if I would have shared this, or if I would have asked this, is there any last minute thoughts that you want to speak through?
I feel like once you've mentioned that bisexual, bi-curious, like we have those labels based on our sexual attraction. But what I love about the tantric sexuality is that it can go so way beyond our lustful desires. And this is the magic part behind tantric massages, because you don't need to be attracted to one another in order to give each other this experience that can be really deep and orgasmic, because you're not using the energy of this magnetism and lust and desire. And I feel like that's one of my favorite parts in tantric sexuality, that you can go beyond that lustful desirous, like I'm attracted to this person, I get horny, I get turned on, because in yoni massage there is none of that present. Like women who come to see me, they don't, like, definitely we are not cultivating flirtiness, playfulness and lust or any of that. We're actually cultivating trust and vulnerability and surrender. And the beautiful thing that sexuality is such a magical energy, that it can wake up. It does wake up in a place of surrender, vulnerability, and space holding, like in that safe space where someone can be open, can be free, can be themselves. Like sexual energy blossoms without any prerequisites of certain like sexual attraction between people. And this is how I see a yoni massage, that it doesn't matter which person gives it to me, as long as I feel safe with this person and they know what they're doing. And I can be taken to such deep states in my sexuality, and that are way deeper than when you are having that lustful attraction towards someone, that feeling of desire and feeling horny. So just wanted to share that can be really helping someone to expand their understanding of sexuality, because such a classic way to look at it is that sexuality is only born when we feel sexual, when we feel sex drive. And this is also a problem for many women, to have that sense that might have low libido because I don't have that passion, that sex drive towards someone. But actually, it's not really important to have that. Actually, you can be completely out of that zone of having lust and desire for someone, but you can still experience this juiciness, deliciousness, and those altered states of consciousness where you are like one with everything. And that's the beauty of the tantric path, that you are not there to cultivate more or sustain and maintain that lust by being sexy and wearing some lingerie, which is a great thing to do as well, right? But actually, instead of that, you can focus on creating that safe space to be open, authentic, and vulnerable, and letting the body lead the way. And the body has so much more to show. So just wanted to share that as my inspiration for Tantra and sexuality, that there is so much more than our sexual desires and magnetism. There is a lot more hidden if we just allow ourselves to be safe, to be seen, to be understood, to be vulnerable. And that gives birth to that Shakti power, that energy that can really take us to some really profound and beautiful places. So really wishing whoever is listening to that to expand and open up your horizons to possibilities, and to consider pursuing the tantric path.
What a fascinating episode. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and being in this space with me. And I look forward to working together.
Thank you so much for hosting me and asking me so many amazing, curious, and interesting questions.
To be continued. We'll have it to be continued. Thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Deepen with Christina. If you do enjoy this podcast, please do like, subscribe, rate, share it with a friend, give it 5 stars. It helps more people find it, helps me continue to host it, helps bring more people into the We Deepen network and the Love Club. Definitely go check out the Love Club. We're going to have our retreat, our Love Club retreat, happening here in Austin, Texas in July. So if you come and join us before that of 2024, you will be invited in. Okay, until next time, I love you. Bye.